My name is Marina Keats, and at 43, I have learned that silence can be the loudest sound in an office. At exactly 4 o'clock, 13 names vanished from the company system, their profiles, their emails, even their calendar entries gone. I watched the notifications cascade across my screen like falling glass. The boss's son called 6 times in 12 minutes. I stared at the phone, then set it face down on the desk. 4 hours earlier, he had walked into my negotiation with 15 coworkers in tow. The contract was nearly sealed. 3 years of renewal worth more than $200 million in client commitments. And I had just asked the final question, "Do you have any further concerns? If not, we can proceed to sign." That was when Ryan Densmore, our CEO's only child, burst through the door with a rehearsed grin. "Stop. That contract is ours." His voice carried the kind of arrogance that comes from never hearing the word no. Behind him, 15 department heads followed, forming a wall between me and the clients. "Ladies and gentlemen, please move to the VIP room. This space isn't appropriate," he said smoothly, gesturing toward the hallway as though the meeting had been his all along. The clients hesitated but obeyed. Everyone obeyed him. Chairs scraped, papers shuffled, the door closed, and the sound that followed absolute silence was colder than any insult. I sat there for 30 seconds, still holding the pen meant for their signatures. Then I slid the folder aside, reached for my phone, and scrolled to the number I'd saved weeks ago for a day I prayed would never come. When Elise Vaughn, Regional Compliance Director, answered, her tone was calm and clipped. "It's happening, isn't it?" I exhaled. Exactly as we predicted. She didn't ask for details. She didn't need to. "Log everything," she said. "No confrontation. Just evidence. You'll know when to send it. Now." As the system erased 13 names in real time, I leaned back and watched the screen glow against the dim office light. The noise of the day was gone. Only purpose remained. By nightfall, the city of Cleveland would whisper about what happened here. That morning, I arrived early, long before anyone else. The boardroom smelled faintly of coffee and printer ink. 3 binders sat stacked on the table, months of work condensed into clean pages and precise figures. The renewal with Medline Instruments would guarantee over $200 million in equipment orders, enough to keep 3 regional plants running and more than 60 jobs safe. I reviewed every clause twice, every signature line once more. When the clients arrived, I stood to greet them, voice steady, handshake firm. They smiled, relaxed. We had been through months of audits and revisions together. Trust was rare in our business, but somehow I had earned theirs. We were minutes from completion when the door opened. Ryan Densmore stepped in as if the room already belonged to him. Behind him came 15 employees from different divisions: sales, logistics, operations, none of whom had been invited. Their badges flashed as they fanned out along the wall. "Stop right there," Ryan said, sliding his phone into his jacket pocket. "This negotiation now falls under executive review." The clients exchanged uncertain looks. "Ryan," I began, keeping my voice even. "This session was cleared by corporate and he cut me off. Corporate means my father. He's well aware." He turned to the visitors with a practiced smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be more comfortable in the VIP suite upstairs. We've arranged refreshments." I felt the ground shift under my feet. The clients gathered their folders, hesitant, eyes darting between us. One of them murmured, "Is this a change in leadership?" Ryan answered before I could. "Just a realignment. Ms. Keats has provided excellent groundwork." He winked at me, soft enough for only me to see. When the door closed behind them, the room emptied like a drained glass. "Clean this up," Ryan told the group. "We'll take it from here." He left first, confident, followed by his entourage. I stood alone, the echo of their footsteps stretching longer than it should have. The humiliation burned hot, then settled into something heavier, steady, deliberate. Cold anger has a sound. It's the quiet clicking of a pen as you decide what comes next. I didn't go home after the meeting. I went straight to my office, closed the blinds, and locked the door. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. The kind of anger I felt had edges sharp, cold, precise. I found Elise Vaughn's number in my contacts list. We hadn't spoken in months, not since we'd worked together on the supplier fraud case that saved the company from a 7-figure penalty. When she answered, her voice was calm, clipped, and familiar. "Marina," she said, "you sound like someone who finally saw what she's been warning everyone about." He hijacked my negotiation, I said. Walked in with 15 people, took the clients, claimed the deal. Elise didn't sound surprised. "Ryan Densmore." "Yes." "Then it's time." I pressed the phone harder to my ear. Time for what don't confront him. Not a word. Log everything, every message, every meeting invite, every call record from this morning. Save them locally, not on the company drive. You'll have your window by 4. Elise. What's happening at 4, you'll know when you see it. And Marina, keep your face neutral. They need to think you're folding. The line went dead. I sat for a long minute, staring at my reflection in the dark screen. Then I began. Every calendar alert, every voicemail, every edited draft of the contract, I archived them all. I cross-checked the meeting logs, saved the access timestamps, and backed them onto a private drive I'd built years ago, out of habit more than foresight. When Ryan's assistant, Tori, stopped by later with a forced smile, I didn't look up. "Mr. Densmore wanted to let you know the clients were impressed with the new direction," she said. "That's good to hear," I replied evenly, still typing. She lingered a second, uncertain, then left. By the time the clock struck 2, the anger had thinned into focus. I had proof lines of it, time-stamped and undeniable. Elise's voice stayed in my head, calm and absolute. "You'll have your window by 4. Whatever she meant, I was ready. When I first transferred to the Cleveland branch 3 months earlier, the air already carried tension. The office was polished on the surface, new glass walls, fresh branding, but underneath, numbers didn't match reality. Ryan Densmore had just been promoted to Executive Director of Operations. Everyone called it a succession trial, though no one doubted the outcome. He was the CEO's son, 29, with a resume padded by short stints in departments that never reported poor results because no one dared submit them. During my first week, I found supplier reports that made no sense. Shipments recorded as delivered twice. Inventory shrinkage logged under miscellaneous. I flagged them and copied Ryan. He called me into his office the next morning. He was smiling when I entered, leaning back in his chair. "Marina, I appreciate your diligence," he said, "but here, we prefer a collaborative approach. No surprises in the inbox. Transparency isn't a surprise." I replied, "It's a correction." His smile thinned. "You're new. You'll learn how things work." That conversation set the tone. I fixed the supplier backlog anyway by verifying every order number against carrier logs. It revealed nearly $200,000 in discrepancies. Instead of praise, I received an email from Ryan. "Next time, align with leadership before taking unilateral action." By the second month, rumors had started. I was too rigid, hard to work with, not a team player. A senior analyst, Nadia Tran, pulled me aside in the break room. "Be careful," she whispered. "People who correct Ryan don't last long here." I smiled as if it didn't sting. "Then I'll just make sure the corrections are undeniable." She looked at me with a kind of pity that stayed in my mind for weeks. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Projects were approved because they looked profitable on paper, not because they worked. Ryan called my reports image problems. I called them what they were, warnings. By the end of the 3rd month, the fault lines were visible to everyone, but no one wanted to name them aloud, except me. The contract Ryan had stolen wasn't just paper and signatures. It was coded structure hours of work layered with safeguards I had buried deep inside its language. 3 months earlier, during the compliance overhaul, I had rewritten our standard negotiation template to include a new line change control and audit trail. Section 7.3. It required that every modification, every attached file, every edit in the contract system be automatically logged under the ID of the user who initiated it. That clause was invisible to most people, sitting quietly beneath a stack of legal references. But I had watched too many deals shift hands without accountability, so I built my own insurance. Now, after Ryan's ambush, that clause was no longer precaution. It was proof waiting to activate. I spent the afternoon tracing the access history. The system recorded 16 new entries under his ID each time he opened, saved, or moved the file. It even timestamped the moment he uploaded his revised version after taking the clients to the VIP suite. Around 3 o'clock, I forwarded a single screenshot to Elise with a short note. Section 7.3 confirmed. Her reply came 2 minutes later. Perfect. Leave the rest to me. Do not interfere. At 3:15, Ryan appeared at my door. No knock. He leaned on the frame. All easy charm. Big day. Marina. The clients signed faster than expected. I kept my expression neutral. I'm sure they did. You see, he grinned. Sometimes you have to trust leadership to close a deal. Of course, I said, my voice even. Just make sure you download the latest compliance addendum. It documents all version histories. Section 7.3. For the first time. He hesitated. Right, he said slowly. I'll have someone check that. When he left, I closed the door and let the silence stretch. The humiliation from that morning felt distant now, replaced by something steadier like steel cooling after the forge. Every click he made was a confession he hadn't yet heard. And by 4 o'clock, those confessions would no longer belong to me. The next morning, an email from Human Resources waited in my inbox. Mandatory review meeting subject contract conduct. The subject line alone told me everything. When I walked in, 2 HR managers sat side by side, papers neatly stacked. One of them, a woman I'd known for years, wouldn't meet my eyes. Marina, she began carefully, there have been concerns regarding yesterday's negotiation. Concerns, I repeated. Mr. Densmore indicated there may have been miscommunication with the client and some irregularities in your documentation. I let a slow breath escape. Did he mention that he took over the meeting without clearance? Her fingers twitched. We're just following procedure. I nodded once, said nothing more, and signed the acknowledgement form they slid across the table. There was no point fighting shadows with words. By noon, the rumor had spread. I heard it whispered in the corridor. Caught between fake sympathy and quiet satisfaction, Marina lost the deal. She panicked during closing. The clients complained. Ryan passed me in the hall later, phone to his ear, smile polished. Don't worry, he said in passing. We'll clean up the paperwork. Everyone knows how stressful these things can be. I smiled back. You're very considerate. He winked. Just protecting the company. That afternoon, the clients stopped replying to my messages. Their silence told me the story he'd already sold them. By 6, the office was empty. I stayed. I copied every log file, every system notification from the day before, onto an encrypted drive I kept in my desk. The room hummed with the low sound of machines and the faint buzz of fluorescent light. At 10:30, a knock startled me. Nadia Tran stood at the door, pale under the harsh light. They're rewriting the contract, she whispered. Under Ryan's login. I saw it on the system feed. I motioned her inside. Save what you can. Don't tell anyone you spoke to me. She hesitated. He's going to blame you. Marina. I met her eyes. He already did. When she left, I locked the door and looked at the drive in my hand. It felt heavier than it should have. The next morning began with silence that felt too careful. My inbox was empty. No meeting requests. No updates from Elise. When the message finally arrived, it was short and sharp. Audit scheduled. 10 a.m. local. Stay quiet. I didn't respond. I just waited. At 10:15, a conference invitation appeared, then vanished. Another followed, marked canceled. My stomach sank. By noon, I understood why. Legal had stepped in. 2 attorneys I barely knew were now reviewing procedural irregularities with the compliance team. It was a stall tactic, one I'd seen before. Ryan's father had deep ties in corporate legal. The board rarely overruled them. Elise called it one. "They're trying to freeze the audit," she said, "claiming conflict of interest because I handled your earlier case. I closed my office door. Can they? They can delay it, not stop it. But delay is what they want. It gives them time to scrub records. What do you need from me?" "Nothing. Just proof you're not cooperating with anyone here. Stay logged out of shared systems. Keep your local copies safe, and wait for my signal." The line went dead before I could answer. At 2:30, Ryan appeared outside my glass wall, talking loudly into his phone. "Yes, Dad," he said. "Everything's handled. They won't move forward today." He saw me watching and smiled. A thin, satisfied curve. I turned back to my screen and opened the internal messenger. A new notification blinked from Elise at 3:45. Exactly. Hold the line. 3:45. The meaning hit instantly. Her team was making their move. Outside my office, the noise shifted. Phones rang, voices rose. Ryan stepped into the hall, his confidence cracking just slightly. "Who authorized this?" he shouted. Within minutes, legal's doors slammed shut and compliance alerts flooded the system. I sat still, hands folded, pulse steady. The audit hadn't been canceled. It had been escalated. For the first time since the ambush. The silence around me didn't feel like defeat. It felt like countdown. The building went still a few minutes before it happened. The kind of stillness that hums just beneath the surface. I was watching the digital clock on my monitor when the system alert appeared 4 o'clock exactly. A soft tone followed, and then another. My inbox filled with message after message. Urgent compliance notice. Immediate action required. The first line of the memo was clear. Effective immediately. 13 employees are placed on administrative suspension pending investigation. 2 have submitted resignations. I scrolled down. Heart steady, eyes sharp. The attached report listed each employee by ID, timestamps, and the log trails that linked them all to Ryan Densmore's account. Every unauthorized access, every altered line in the contract, his username at the center of it all. Across the hall, a chair scraped loudly. Someone muttered, "Is this real?" Phones started ringing, voices low and confused. The sound spread like a slow ripple through the floor. Ryan appeared at the far end of the corridor, phone pressed to his ear, his color fading as he read the same memo. "Dad, I don't." He stopped mid-sentence. "No, it can't be from compliance. They wouldn't." He caught my eye through the glass wall. For the first time since the ambush, he didn't look sure of himself. I didn't move. I didn't speak. The head of legal walked past, pale, carrying a printed copy of the notice. Behind her, 2 compliance officers from headquarters stepped off the elevator, badges visible. The office noise flattened again, just breath, paper, the faint buzz of monitors. I closed the window on my screen and leaned back in my chair. The air felt heavier, but my chest lighter. 3 months of careful restraint had landed here. In this quiet moment of truth, I exhaled once, slow and steady. Outside, Ryan's phone slipped from his hand and hit the tile floor. He didn't bend to pick it up. The memo kept blinking on every screen around us, relentless in its simplicity. All findings trace back to Executive IDR, Densmore. By evening, the entire executive floor had been locked down. I was summoned upstairs for what they called an emergency review. The boardroom lights were dimmed, every chair occupied. The atmosphere carried the sharp scent of panic disguised as protocol. Elise stood at the front, calm amid the storm. "The investigation is complete," she said. "All findings are corroborated by internal logs, timestamps, and client correspondence. The alteration of contractual data was deliberate." Ryan sat 2 seats away from me, face pale, jaw tight. His father, the CEO, kept his eyes fixed on the table. A board member cleared his throat. "Ms. Keats, can you confirm that Section 7.3 was your addition to the template?" "Yes," I said. "It was designed to maintain accountability in multi-party negotiations," Elise continued, projecting the audit summary onto the main screen. "That clause automatically recorded every unauthorized edit under Mr. Densmore's ID. Each entry is validated by the company's own encryption log." The CFO rubbed his temples. "That's irrefutable," he murmured. Ryan finally spoke, voice cracking. "You're twisting this. I was acting in the company's best interest." Elise's tone didn't change. "Then perhaps the company should thank you for leaving such detailed evidence?" A ripple of restrained laughter moved around the table. Ryan's chair screeched backward. "You can't do this to me," he said. Security stepped forward quietly. He looked at me. Disbelief and fury tangled in his eyes. "You set me up." I met his gaze. "No, Ryan, you set the system up against itself." They escorted him out, the door shutting with a final, muffled click. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the board chair. A man named Edmund Hale leaned toward me. "Marina, the position is vacant. The company needs steady hands. It should be yours." I shook my head. "Integrity isn't a title." "Edmund, keep it for someone who still believes that." He nodded slowly. When I left the room, Elise caught my arm. "You did exactly what you had to." "No," I said softly. "I did what they left me no choice but to do." The next morning, Cleveland looked different. The skyline caught the first light like polished brass. Cold, but clean. I sat by the window with my coffee, watching the quiet street below. My phone vibrated on the table beside me. 13 missed calls, all from the same number. Ryan's name. News notifications kept flashing across the screen. 13 executives suspended pending investigation. Company under federal review. Each headline felt distant, like echoes from a place I had already left. I had turned in my badge the night before. When I walked out of the building, no one stopped me. No one needed to. Around 8, another call came in an unfamiliar number this time, from Washington State. I hesitated, then answered. "Ms. Keats," a woman said. "This is Laura Pearson from Medline Instruments. We've been following the news. Our board is restructuring supplier oversight, and we'd like to retain you as an independent consultant." I let the words settle. "You're offering me a contract." "Yes. We need someone who doesn't bend when the room does. You built a process we trust. Name your rate." For a second, I said nothing. Then I smiled, faintly. "Let's start with the truth," I said. "Everything else will follow." She laughed softly. "That's exactly why we called." When the call ended, I placed the phone down and looked out again at the rising light. The city's sound was beginning to build trucks, morning chatter, the distant hum of construction. Life continuing. I thought of Ryan's face when the evidence appeared on screen. The disbelief when control slipped through his hands. He thought he had taken the room from me, claimed it as his. But rooms change. Walls remember who built them. I closed my laptop, finished my coffee, and let the sunlight stretch across the floor. The day felt like a beginning, not an ending, one built not from revenge, but from proof that silence when used right, can shake an empire back into truth.